Welcome, geriatric sky pirates, to Geek Salad Retro Movie Reviews from the Geek Salad Podcast. I'm Andy.
And I'm Mike.
And tonight we wrap up our look at the Studio Ghibli films of Miyazaki. We have looked at Princess Mononoke. We have looked at Spirited Away. We have looked at Howl's Moving Castle. And we left the last one to our fans on Twitter. We put out a poll with 4 movies, and the runaway winner was 1986's Castle in the Sky.
Also known as Laputa Castle in the Sky.
Oh, right. Exactly. Because it actually has like things to do with Lilliput, like the Gulliver's Travels.
Right.
Tales of the City in the Sky. So this was your first time watching it too, right?
Yes.
This is just mine. This is yours too. Okay.
I've never seen this before.
Thoughts?
It probably my least favorite of the 4 we've watched. Still I think a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely early anime. It is, you can definitely tell it's out of the 80s anime. It's got a lot of tropes that you see in those early anime series, and you can see Miyazaki is still kind of crafting his storytelling techniques. Like a lot, like this felt like very much of almost a prototype for Princess Mononoke.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. I feel like almost as if we did ourselves a disservice by watching this one last.
Yeah.
Mainly because, Miyazaki is still trying to find his voice. He's still trying to find that vision. This movie is nowhere near as visually stunning as the last 3 movies we talked about. And given that there's about a removal of 10 years between this and Princess Mononoke, it shows. A lot of, I was getting flashbacks to watching Star Blazers as a kid because of a lot of the sound effects that they would use for things blowing up or swooshing by things. A lot of the animation, I could tell that Miyazaki worked on Lupin, because any character who wasn't a main character looked like a carbon copy of the Lupin character build.
Yeah, I can see that. Also, for me, the last 2 acts are a lot better than that first act. The first act, it's fine, but it does a lot of heavy lifting with very little weight attached to it. It feels very aimless compared to the last 2 acts. There's definitely where we know where it's going. First act, we don't really know what's happening.
Well, considering how long we were on Laputa for, I almost kind of feel like the entire movie should have taken place there, because a lot of you're right, a lot of that opening just is aimless. There's a lot going on, but not enough going on.
Yeah.
And having to deal, like, Dola is an interesting character, which is funny because I know that Cloris Leachman voiced Dola in this, but I also saw Tress MacNeille's voice. She's credited with other additional voices. And it's funny because all I could think of while Cloris Leachman was doing Dola was that Treehouse of Horror with Hansel and Gretel, where they toss her into the oven and she's like, "Oh, this is horrifying! I couldn't be in more pain." And it sounded like it was like, "Oh wow."
Dola was such a weird character because she really comes off as like that first act. She is really a dislikable character, and I don't know. It's her switch. It's not like it's not sudden like that, but it seems it's a little bit of a weird dichotomy.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that she's only livened up by all the people that work with her. Yeah. There's a lot of voice actors in there. There's a lot of talent. I think this was released. The Disney release was what, 90 or 80, 96, 97?
it was the Disney Dome one was done in 1998, but
Okay.
they held on to it and didn't release it because Princess Mononoke did not do nearly as well as they wanted it to.
Okay.
So they held off on releasing it until 2003.
That's really interesting. Yeah, right after Spirited Away came out
Yeah,
and won an Oscar.
yeah,
That is really interesting because there is a lot of what I find interesting about the voice cast is outside of maybe Mark Hamill, um, it's almost like you couldn't tell that this was a celebrity cast.
yeah.
I mean Anna Paquin. I at this point could not pick Anna Paquin's younger voice out of a lineup blindfolded. Mainly because I only think of her as Rogue and as Sookie Stackhouse. So, and those are two roles where she is affected with a deep Southern accent.
Yeah. And this one was like she was still fairly young, so she still had her kind of her New Zealand accent in there.
Yeah.
You
No,
could wasn't strong, but you could catch hints of it every now and then.
I keep thinking I thought she was no, I gotta go find her here. Where the hell is she? Anna Paquin. Okay, there we are.
She,
All right.
she's I think her mother was like British.
She's actually she's actually from Manitoba, Canada.
I know, but
Her mother is from New Zealand.
and they went to New Zealand when Anna Paquin was 4, and they
Right.
lived there for like 10 years. So
Right. And she had a slight accent when she won her Oscar for the piano.
yeah,
James Van Der Beek was
he was like 21 when this movie came out. So when the dub was done, so he actually did young pretty well.
well, I have a feeling too that was probably a lot of audio manipulation too, though.
That's possible, yeah.
It's very possible because he was doing Dawson's Creek at this time.
Yeah.
When they did the voice, just assuming that the voices were done in 97.
Yeah, 97, 98.
Yeah, give it a year. So I mean, he was just starting Dawson's at that point.
Yeah.
So it's weird because I feel like these voices out of all of these American dubs of all these Miyazaki movies, this felt the most like anime.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to make that sound derogatory, but one of the things that I've never been a fan of with American dubbed anime is that whole, like, just waiting for that, to come out at any point. And it's just because, it is a trope. It is an anime trope that the American dub is done by voice actors. And I understand Ghibli is able to get the finest of the finest, and only Mark Hamill's voice stands out in this.
Yeah, holy crap, I didn't realize Mandy Patinkin did a voice in there.
Yeah, Mandy Patinkin, Andy Dick, Jim Cummins, John Hostetter.
From Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
I mean, the only other one I knew right off the bat was Jim Cummings. Because
right, well, it's Jim Cummings.
Jim Cummings has that.
We watch a lot of Disney. We know that.
Yeah,
Mark Hamill's voice was very distinct.
Our whole Disney Afternoon episode was the Jim Cummings memorial.
Oh.
Well, he's not dead, but.
No. But like Mark Hamill's voice is really the only one that stood out. I kind of feel like Mark Hamill's the only one who was like, I can do something with this. Reading the trivia on this, I guess he really wanted to make his character sound like Niles Crane, which didn't work. He sounded just like the Joker.
Well, he sounded like Mark Hamill.
He sounded like Mark Hamill doing a voice for an animated movie.
Yeah, like most of a lot of time, like especially now, he does that real gravelly here. So it's kind of nice to hear him just talk normal, actually.
Right. I feel too. One of the things this is my least favorite of the 4 of these movies is I felt like, and this could have been because of when it was made. I mean, we've just come from watching these richly detailed backgrounds and these richly detailed characters. And a lot of the detail in all of the human characters is very soft. It's very simplistic to a fault. I really feel like they didn't put a lot of effort into character design at all, other than to maybe look like it's on one of those, the artwork for an NES box.
Hmm. I mean, honestly, they were probably done by the same artists anyway. But
Yeah.
I will say though that yeah, well, yeah, the backgrounds aren't as elaborate as what we've seen in the last three movies, but still, like the whole like towns built into like almost a valley, and
Yeah.
Laputa itself, or
The Puta.
Laputa, Laputa, I think
Laputa. Laputa.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It
whatever.
it was a really beautifully done. For like 1986, this was gorgeous.
Yeah. I mean,
Especially the robot like kind of walking around doing the gardening and all that.
yeah.
I thought that was
Yeah, no,
fantastic.
there are things about this I can appreciate, but moving backwards like this, especially because we went forward for three movies and then took a step backwards. It's really difficult not to do that. I mean, I can put myself in 1986 and remember what animation was like then.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, G.I. Joe, the movie.
This was better animated than G.I. Joe the movie.
Oh, hell yeah. Maybe not the opening credit sequence.
No, that opening credit sequence.
That thing kicked ass, and they spent all their money on it. It's like, oh, damn it, now we got to do the rest of the movie.
We blew our wad, now we're just going to sleep for a while.
Son of a bitch. But yeah, I don't know, with this movie, it was just like, I hate to say, I found myself just not caring.
Well, like, with like what you mentioned a couple of times, like Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away, like you'd pause it, and you're like, you still have that much movie? And for me, that never bothered me here. But with this one, like, right when Pazu joined the Air Pirates, I paused it because I had to go out and like wash my dishes or whatever. And I was like, I'm not even halfway done. Jeez.
I got one better.
That first
I got one better. I had to pause the movie because my son came off the bus. I just wanted to say hi to him, see how he was doing. 8 minutes left. They crammed a lot of story into 8 minutes, which also, by the way, includes end credits.
Yeah. Well, the end credits wasn't much. For movies nowadays, the end credits on those ones were like maybe 3-4 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it just felt like,
I
thought this movie was going to end in under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I got stuff to do. Come on.
It's a longer movie than Howl's Moving Castle. And I will say, I bought the relationship between Pazu and Sheeta more than I bought the relationship between Howl and
Sophie.
Thank you.
Yeah. I did too, even though they're children. They're presented as being children.
Yeah, they're like 15. They're like 14, 15.
You could have fooled me.
Yeah.
That Pazu could have been 10 years old for all I know. He was just a very short. Is he a short man?
Yeah, I don't think they actually ever gave their names. I just kind of assumed they were like 14, 15.
Yeah, I don't know. And again, it's the way that it's presented. I feel like that's the big thing. That the presentation of the character designs really is going to make you think one thing without explaining anything. Well, the other thing too is that they don't stick with any of Pazu's family or anything. Uncle Palm.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, here's one scene. I am barefoot. Goodbye. It's like Pazu barely factors into this until the very end.
Yeah. Pazu.
Sorry.
Yeah. The Uncle Palm scene was pretty, like when all the lights in the cave were going, but he was really just there for our exposition. There really was no other reason for him to be there. They needed someone to explain about the Ethereum crystals.
Yeah.
And he was there.
Yeah. It just, I mean, and I feel also that, I mean, the movie itself, again, based on what Miyazaki had to work with, the animation was a little more jank than we are used to. It wasn't as fluid. To go back to, what's her name? That's why I keep IMDb up, so I don't have to remember names. Dola.
Yeah.
Dola's movements are very jank. There's nothing smooth about that character. She looks. Forgive me for saying this. I understand. I'm stating the obvious. She moves like an animated character.
Yeah, like I said before, this felt a lot like an 80s anime. You know, if you watch any of the series from back in like the 80s, like the old like Voltron series,
yeah,
like stuff like that, it fits in with that style. So yeah, going from Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away back to this, yeah, especially for someone like you who's not really into anime.
Exactly. But
totally
you know, when I mean, most of the anime I watched was like Star Blazers and Guy King.
This had a very Star Blazers. The animation was very Star Blazers feel.
Yeah, Battle of the Planets. You know, like brought to us by Sandy Frank. Well, Star Wars is big with the kids. Put this robot in here. He's the exposition, Tron. What do you say here? Oh dear. I don't know. Leave me alone. Why am I underwater? This makes no sense. Yeah, anywho. And that's the thing, is that it brought me back to, if I'm going to feel, I could feel a little nostalgic about this, because it did bring me back to like those afternoon Japanese imports that I would watch. But it's not, I feel like for as grandiose as it wanted to be, it wasn't nearly as cinematic. Here we go again. Guys about the house all day. I feel like this wasn't as cinematic. And what I've grown to expect from Miyazaki films is that they are cinematic, considering that, did Kiki follow this up? Either Kiki or Totoro, that's 89.
Actually, Kiki might be before this. Kiki's delivery service. No, you're right. It was 89.
Okay, so Kiki's 89, but Totoro 88.
Yeah.
And that's funny because, you know, in the span of 2 years, he's got the first two of his Miyazaki's masterpieces.
I mean, and again, to be fair, this was the very first official Studio Ghibli movie.
Right.
You know, they'd done like a couple before, like called they did Nausicaa and The Valley of the Winds before this one, but that one was before they actually founded Studio Ghibli. It was just all the same people. So this
and Miyazaki was doing Lupin also. So that's
this was Miyazaki's really kind of his first kind of independent release in a sense.
Yeah.
So, you know, for the very first movie of a studio, I don't think it's all that bad.
No, I don't think so either. You know, and putting it in that context, absolutely, it's what it that is.
Better. It definitely gets better.
Oh, it certainly does. Considering that within 2 years he gets the movie that is still kind of the flagship of the studio. Totoro shows up in the Studio Ghibli. You know,
we'll just look at the Studio Ghibli logo, and Totoro is right there, front and center.
I mean, hell, my Roku, one of my screensavers on my Roku is got like all these different things from all these family films, and there's Totoro right up in a tree, and my wife is like, "Who's that?" And I keep having to tell her it's Totoro. It's like, I'm not familiar with that. I'm like, well, we have HBO Max. We could watch Totoro, My Neighbor Totoro, if you wanted to.
Yeah, again, I'm shocked that one didn't win the vote, but I would really like to go back and do My Neighbor Totoro at some point.
I agree. I think that we can definitely find 4 other movies that we can discuss. Considering 3 of them didn't win this poll. So, and I can't vote because I'm the one who put the poll out. So, but it was like a runaway winner too, and I don't know if it's just because of the lack of critical analysis of Castle in the Sky versus, I mean, you can go on YouTube and find 3-hour-long think pieces on Spirited Away and on Mononoke. Those two specifically. But Castle in the Sky, I kept thinking it was Howl's Moving Castle, because why wouldn't it be?
Yeah,
titles sound very similar.
Yeah, like I said, it had like this Castle in the Sky really has like the anti-war messages of like Howl's Moving Castle, and it has like the ecological messages of Princess Mononoke. So this is really where he's like, all right, let's try and get these stories in, and
Yeah.
then eventually later on, then he's gonna be like, okay, let's make an entire movie around that topic. Let's make another movie around that topic. So this
I
was
was
just
shocked this was an anti-war film.
yeah. It was, but I think it was a little bit. I mean, it wasn't subtle, but it was more subtle than it was in Howl's Moving Castle. Howl's Moving Castle,
Shit, yeah.
They came out and said, "Oh, this is a stupid war. I hate this war." And this one was like, "It's not really anything specifically. I hate this war." It's more like Muska is just an asshole who wants to destroy everything.
He is a fancy asshole, though. Don't forget that he's wearing like an ascot.
Oh, dude, he was rocking those
anime glasses.
Those glasses were he was rocking the hell out of those glasses.
Yeah. If I could honestly get away with that without being called the hipster douchebag, I would totally wear tinted glasses.
Yeah, but I would be the first one to call you a hipster douchebag.
That's very true. That's very true. So, and I would expect you to do so. So there we are.
Yeah.
I mean, music again.
Joe Hisashi again.
Is quite good again. The opening strains are still Nintendo Entertainment System presents The Legend of Zelda.
But yeah, I mean, Hisashi is always solid. I mean, it's like John Williams. You're not going to get a bad performance out of him.
Right, but just like John Williams, though, you can also tell when he's just like, I'm going to phone this one in. And if you disagree with anything about that with John Williams, I point you to the Minority Report score because it sounds almost identical to the Attack of the Clones score. Yeah. They were both released in the same year, and Autumn and I were watching Minority Report, like, where have we heard this before? Oh, yeah, Attack of the Clones. Damn it. But, it's still, I mean, Joe Hisashi does a really good score. It is gorgeous, and I feel like that sometimes, and this is kind of a comment throughout, I feel like there are some times when that score maybe not so much overpowers the action on the screen, but it doesn't underscore it in the right way. I feel like sometimes the music is more beautiful than the scenery, the scene that they're trying to convey. I mean, it's not nearly as out of place as anything that Junkie XL did for the Snyder Cut. Yeah. So I'm fine with that. But
no, I kind of get what you're saying because with Princess Mononoke, while watching that movie for the very first time in theaters back then, the score stood out to me. It was like a John Williamson Star Wars.
Oh, it's gorgeous,
gorgeous. This one, I liked the score, but it didn't really give me the same emphasis that he would eventually do with other Miyazaki's movies. It was a great score, but it wasn't one that stood out to me.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, overall, it was okay. I don't know if go back. I was kind of happy I didn't watch this with my kids because my kids would have tore into this one.
Yeah, Scarlett, I think, would have definitely.
Oh yeah, she's definitely my kid.
Oh yeah. So, but I've seen worse animated films.
Yes. Oh, absolutely, I have. And is that a segue, Mike?
Perhaps.
Okay, so I guess that will be our segue then, because I don't think we have anything else to talk about with Castle in the Sky. Thank you, by the way, for voting for that, you bastards. We'll get to Totoro eventually.
Yeah.
So yes, instead of doing the traditional October thing where we pick 4 horror movies and be like, ooh, scary, spooky, we've decided to go another route. And Mike had a great idea. Mike, tell the good people what your idea was.
Well, I mean, when you think of Halloween, you think of scary, you think of spooky, you think of trick or treats. So we decided to take 4 movies that neither one of us have seen, and we will decide if it's a trick or a treat.
Yes. And I think just for the season, we should start it off with the animated Addams Family.
I was thinking that as well.
The 2019 Addams Family. Is it a trick or is it a treat? I told my kids, I don't want your review. They've already seen it. Like, I don't want your review. I need to be clean when I watch this.
Yes.
So, yeah, we have picked 4 movies. You know how hard it is for us to find 4 movies that neither of us have seen?
Oh, yeah.
Mike was texting me yesterday while I was at my dress rehearsal, like, how about Prey? Like, shit, no, I've watched that one already.
Yeah, I was like, oh, damn, it's too bad because that would have been perfect for this month.
I would have loved to have done Knives Out, but I've already seen it. And I wanted to do Glass Onion, but I didn't know when that's coming out.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Knives Out yet.
Got to.
I know.
So
I've heard fantastic things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's so good. And, hey, you will notice local landmarks.
I don't know. I'm not all that observant when it comes to landmarks.
Okay. Well, you know my Ryan Johnson story, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You tweeted and he replied.
He replied to me when I asked him where the wormholes were that brought you from downtown Clinton all the way to Westfield. God bless that man. So
Anyway.
yeah. So yeah, we will be hitting on the Addams Family to kick off our trick or treat. So thank you, everyone. If this is the first time you are watching us because you saw Castle in the Sky, we actually did 3 others: Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, and Howl's Moving Castle. You can check those out in our retro movie review playlist. You can also just check out any of the retro reviews that we did because we do this every week. Also, Mike and I host a little podcast called Geek Salad. You can check that out wherever you get your podcast, be it Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. We are there. And the feed shows up right on this YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe because you get the extra content here. Like this video. Give it a big thumbs up. Push that algorithm because that would be amazing to have that. Also, if you want to know what we're up to, you can follow us on the socials, on Twitter at Geek Salad Radio and on Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. And don't forget to check out our TeePublic store, keyword Geek Salad Podcast, to find all of your outdated wares. So, anyway, until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
Go forth and be nerdful. We will talk to you next week.